Welcome to the Electric Theatre.
Hey man, what's happening?
Oh, not a whole lot, man. How you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm in Des Moines. Where are you at right now? Obviously.
I'm actually in my little home office in Fairfax, Iowa. So I considering the times I do a lot of these like virtual events, and so I had to get kind of a little home set up. So I'm in front of obviously my little stash of whiskey.
Well, I'm looking around and I'm seeing a lot of cool things. A lot of things that look very interesting. So hopefully sometime I'll see this area, the Mad Scientist Lab, the Alchemy Lab happening here. So that's cool,
Oh, yeah,
man. I have a little bit since we started working together. I don't know if everybody knows, but obviously, it'll be in the description. You and I don't have to talk too much about it because we're just here to talk. But obviously, we make what I like to call juice together. And I have a similar lab at home, um, uh, and full of a lot of shelves of different juices that have been either infused or created or stuff that I've tried at Cedar Ridge, and just just little things, and it makes it interesting. It's not unlike grandma's spice rack that she would say, you'd look at all those toned spices and those little things, and maybe if you were a kid, you get into the wrong one right away, and then you'd have nothing to do with spice it, but then as
Yeah.
you get older and you start appreciating how it's divided up, and that every one of those things that you may have not thought had a purpose can pay a big purpose in an overall effect, I guess.
No, absolutely. I'm completely with you, and I like the spice analogy. One of my favorite things to do is to actually taste through a bunch of different whiskeys and have an empty bottle and actually just blend a bunch of them together. Rather than even, I like to experience them on their own, obviously too. But it's fun to just kind of play mad scientist, just like in a kitchen. You want to play with different spices and see what you can come up with.
What when you do that, when you go into that realm and you're at the bottom of a couple bottles where you can do that, and you're feeling like making that your art, are you documenting that in your mind or on paper? What do you do? Let me back up. If you choose to take, let's say 3, 4 bottles, put them into one, you're going to do something, you're very aware of what is in each. Maybe you've been studying each for a while and you got all that knowledge, but then you mix them. I mean, how crazy are you getting? Are you measuring? Are you just mixing? Are you that knowledgeable? Meaning you have your head wrapped around it, you can just get your answer and apply it immediately, or do you have to write it down, document?
Yeah, that's an awesome question. No one's actually ever asked me that before. So I'd say it's actually a two-part answer. When I'm at home, it's much more for fun. It's kind of a leisure activity, and so I don't get too by the book on it. I like to just a dash of this, a dash of that, and just kind of keep manipulating and see what I come up with. But when I'm actually at work, I'm tasting through different barrels that I'm gonna eventually put my name on. I take that a lot more seriously. So I actually have a catalog, and I'll record different notes of every single barrel that I try, and maybe some of them I'll use in a blend, maybe some of them I'll put back in inventory and let them age a little bit longer. But yeah, when I'm doing that, I'll create all sorts of different micro blends. I'll measure out either milliliters or ounces or whatever, and I'll be a little bit more scientific on it. But when I'm at home, I try not to. Just in order to kind of avoid burnout on something that I'm so passionate about, I try not to get too by the book at home. If I'm enjoying whiskey at home, it's always for fun, and I try to keep it that way.
I've been doing the same thing. I agree with you completely. I mean, I don't have a place of work where I'm making the juice, and but I've set up a lab here to screw around with stuff. One thing I like that I got into is that, once I met you and you kind of opened my mind to things and we tasted barrels and, the way my mind works is like, just the other day when I was there doing the signing, we had to walk through one of the warehouses, if you will. And, there's that first barrel seeping out some sort of something, you don't know what it is. I wish I would have had a pocket knife and just, take a little slab of that so I could take it home and put it on toast or something. But
Absolutely.
pardon me, but I'm very interested in time, pressure, mainly time, because we're all of us as humans, time either bothers us or time is affecting us greatly in a stressful way. I try to not let time stress me out by applying it to things that I can create, So
sure.
one thing I started doing after I met you and see barrels leak and, how this thing is this old and sitting in this place and this barrel's this old, but sitting in this place. So what I started doing was, obviously, you can make your own brandy and DIY stuff. And you and I have been talking a little bit about this stuff and, infused stuff. We're not going there, but what I really went into gardening last March, and I mainly went for peppers. I grew up with some Asian families and, they pretty much, I grew up on hot ass food. Right. I mean, if I wanted to eat, it was hot, period. End of story. So I was glad to eat. So I started loving hot food. So this year, my mom was a master gardener and I decided this is the perfect time for me to be able to garden. So I did a garden and I mainly put a lot of peppers in it. I had other things like squash and stuff, of course, tomatoes, but mainly like ghost peppers, Anaheim, serrano, just like all around the board, habaneros, just all of it, Thai chilies. So then what I would do is I would take some of your guys' vodka, and I would just infuse the peppers basically. But the reason why I'm doing it is, so I've had some ghost peppers soaking in some vodka probably for not a year, but it's coming up to maybe 10 months, just in there. And I intend on using it for cooking. I intend on being able to get a wok that we have, throw everything in, splash in a quarter cup, depending on, I have to test it. Just like you're testing.
Oh yeah.
I have to see where we're at, but everyone that eats with me here and anyone who's a guest tends to usually get pulled into my addiction to hot ass. I live for it. I don't know if I'm affected by I don't sit around and just eat stuff to be in pain, but I love to have my head blown off with really hot peppers and stuff. I think it's amazing. So I've been soaking them in, and here pretty soon, when the weather gets better, we can start doing some barbecue. I'm gonna soak some brats in the ghost pepper infusion just for a little bit. And then, as we know, the alcohol, the goal is to have the alcohol burn off. But I don't mind having a little bit of that left and maybe not burn it all the way out. But so that's about the extent of my lab is, I have to take what I can get or buy to play around with stuff. So it's cool. And I'm with you. Some of the things that I've done, I've gotten down to the last little bits and mixed them. And in music, we call those happy accidents because, we'll be out on the floor jamming and maybe someone will come crashing in the room and just get everybody's attention. And someone's like, blah, blah, blah. He just goes nuts and, what the fuck or something. And then we hear that later in context and we're like, that fits. That's real onto the
Might
moment.
be onto something. Yeah.
Yeah. So we call them happy accidents, and very rarely will a happy accident not make the album, because the things out of our control are really sort of what the metaphor, I think, of life is that we're all trying to control something that's controlling us. So just be controlled, I guess. So
Absolutely. So I know you mentioned that in the summer you have been gardening, and I remember that very well. I'll be talking about that throughout the winter, though, since you haven't been able to do that as much. Have you guys been making a lot of new music, or what have you been up to through the winter?
same thing, man. I'm very blessed. We were talking about last night. We were enjoying some reserve, and I was noticing that I put it in the freezer. I bought a little freezer for the electric theater here, just a little guy. It's full of water. Lately I've been drinking a sip of Dr. Pepper in my mouth first, and then 3 minutes later I'll start sipping some reserve. Just trying to get my head around caramels and vanillas and weird things that aren't in alcohol. You know what I mean? See how it stays in my mouth before it goes. So anyway, last night we were sipping on some cold reserve, and we were like, man, it's harsh, like colder. It had been in the refrigerator a couple of days, and you and I spoke about this a couple of days ago about air, water, how much things can change with just one drop of water. So the condensation in the refrigerator being in and out changed it. So anyway, we've been sipping rarely, but last night was one of those nights that we were able to enjoy ourselves. We had a great meal and a couple cocktails, and we're able to listen to music. So I've been very blessed since all this crazy stuff has come upon the world. I just went right into music. I've been talking about it since the beginning in the electric theater. The way I have to say it, though, politically, is that, I've probably, been writing enough music to ever have for the rest of a lifetime, but we're only talking about one song here. So just, you know what I mean? We're just talking about one song that could be 10 hours long. I don't know, but
I love it.
Very lucky. We've been able to write, and years ago, I started this, it just got called, this is called the Open Lab. There's a lot of guys in Slipknot, and when people like guitar players are in the main room with a producer, locking down guitar parts, you got to go do something for the day. You should, these guys are, it's big business, and it can't be interrupted, and it's just a hello could interrupt everybody's flow, So I'm very lucky to have my own little place and be able to have my open lab. So for the last couple of records, we started employing this thought called the open lab, which really means renting another studio within the studio we're playing in. So we rent a big room for the guts of it, and then we rent a smaller room, and we call it open lab. So anybody that wants to do anything, if you want to go in there with a mouth harp or whatever they're called, or a harmonica, or whatever you want to do. If you're feeling something, you want to read poetry, you want to scream, you want to cry, you caught some dialogue outside at Fatburger, which I tend to do a lot when I'm in LA. Get a lot of good stuff at Fatburger in LA outside there. So
plenty of opportunity for happy accidents in those rooms, I would imagine.
Oh yeah, I mean, so many. So I mean, that's what I've been doing. I've been very productive during the winter. I have my own place. What's nice about it is that I have time that, let's just say, isn't on the clock. It's not necessarily has a dollar value to the minute value, and that allows me to take things less seriously. And when I take them less seriously, I can open my soul and my core and my thoughts more,
Yeah.
and I can experiment within the realm of what I think we are. It's always for Slipknot, never trying to make Slipknot something Slipknot is never going to be. But Slipknot is such a monster with different faces that, you know, we've only begun now, as old as we are, to really start giving more of ourselves in a way that, like, the music, people may say, like, people are always going to say music changes within bands, but we
Yeah.
have our formula, if you will, and our formula
Yeah.
is called Slipknot. So anyway, back to it, bring it back around to your question. I use the word a lot, but I believe in this this day and age, to just remind people that, you know, we are all having a hard time.
Yeah.
So I do feel very blessed in my own way of that word, to be able to still create music with my friends and just create. And that's all it is. It doesn't mean it's a Slipknot song yet. It never is
Yeah.
until all 9 have put their thought processes on it. But what's so great
Yeah.
about having your own little open lab, which I call the Electric Theater, is that when I have time and I want to be creative, like you coming down to your lab, you can be creative,
Yeah.
you know, on your own. The tools are right here. This is my mad scientist lab, I guess. People come in here. You can't see it, but I have a console above me. I just started doing live Zoom, so I don't know how to work this contraption, moves the computer. Every time I do it, it almost breaks. And no one's here to do it. But I have, pardon me, I have 40 masks from the
Oh, hell yeah.
0.5 gray chapter. And each mask was made every night. And each mask was worn, obviously, in a different location, territory,
Yep.
city. And there's space enough for 42, but some things went down in here. The 2 of them had to go away because they had
Ooh.
heard and seen too much. So they were given as an offering to those lovely individuals, and they get to take them onward through life. But they had
Wow.
to leave this space, because they may whisper to other people that come in here, and what was seen and heard cannot be explained. And if they're taken away, it's hearsay. It's like the big fish story, you know. So they're out of here.
Oh man. Hey, what an experience for the people who got them too. I mean, I bet that just made their life.
Well, it's ironic. The next day they were like, you know, and I'm like, you don't need to tell me. Those things need to go. Yes,
Yeah,
I
get 'em
know.
out.
They're gifts. But when you're making music, we go far, man. And usually when it gets to the point where people have heard too much or seen too much, it's usually because we're so deep in what we're doing, we forget to open the one door that shows us that it's like 9 a.m.
Yeah.
And we're just like, oh my God, we've been working on, like, you can get caught up on like a plugin, you know, an EQ, an equalizer on a snare for hours. You're just sitting there staring into the computer, telling stories. And you're like, what are we doing? We're chasing nothing. We need to go to bed. Our ears are completely fatigued. We don't even know what we're listening to or what we're going for. But anyway, you know, to bring it all back around, that I have my own open lab. I have a control room and a live room, and it's not 1 centimeter bigger than it needs to be. And I record it in just about anywhere you can think of. Maybe not everywhere, but enough to give a variable that this place is not 1 centimeter bigger than it needs to be. There's no couch in this control room, because you don't want a bunch of people in the back with opinion, you know. And it's only big enough for 3 people. If there is a 4th person, they got to stand up and the door's got to be shut. And it gets really hot, gets really awkward. And really, there's a guy here at the desk working the Pro Tools, and then myself and maybe another artist. But we try to keep it 2 people. We try to keep it 1 person working on something with the engineer, producer, whatever, whoever, and so I'm really
Limit
lucky.
the distractions. Yeah.
Yeah, so I guess I got a little bit of lab, but the council up here, I tell people, I tell people I got artistic schizophrenia because like they are as many thoughts as I have going on right now, and I could prove it. I mean, I could start with my family, wife, child, 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 dog, dog, dog. And there's 8 already. There's 3 dogs and a wife and 4 kids, all with different things going
Yep.
on. And so there's just 8 things right there. Then Slipknot, well, now we're really past 40, aren't we? So.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I didn't know, and I'm not trying to like give it away or nothing, but my parents were born in Owine, Iowa.
Yeah.
And I know Fairfax. Waverly. What's the good one that I always pass? Watchir. I had an uncle that lived in Watchir, and he used to throw corn cobs down to big bullfrogs, and I used to think the bullfrogs were eating them, but they were really jumping away from them.
Yeah.
He was kind of messing with me. So Fairfax, how far is that from where you're at the?
So Fairfax. First of all, I have family out in Owine as well. I actually love that area. Owine, Independence, Winthrop. I've got a lot of family
Independence,
Iowa, man. A lot of family there. I absolutely love small town Iowa. I'm driving the back roads and just kind of checking out different farms and stuff like that. It's like a form of meditation, in my opinion. But Fairfax, Iowa is roughly 15, 20 minutes away from Swisher, which is where Cedar Ridge Distillery is. So, it's kind of like you were talking about. It's the perfect distance from work where I'm not always there, but if I need to get there quickly, I can get there quickly. So, it's Fairfax is actually right outside of Cedar Rapids, and just a nice little neighborhood area that I can raise a family in.
What about? I agree with you. What about? You said you have family who. I guess we don't need to go into it. It's just crazy. I grew up there, man. Like my mom and dad were born there. And my grandma, my best friend in the entire world, my favorite human being to ever enter and leave this planet was my grandma, Maxine de Timmerman. And she, she had one son that lived there, and then one daughter lived in Waterloo. My mom lived in Des Moines. Couple of her boys, one was in Washington, one was in Albuquerque, I think.
Yeah.
And then my other uncle, he lived in Watchir. He may have lived in Fairfax for a minute. But all those towns, I agree with you. I grew up driving through the same thing, and that's great. What a small world. I would love to know. It would be so ironic. Unfortunately for me, I've lost touch with all of my family, everybody. It'd be interesting, on a side note, when we get together, it'd be interesting to see your family, my family, if anybody knows each other. I've been, my oldest daughter's a photographer, a fabulous photographer, and I've been trying to schedule a trip with her to go to Owine, because in Owine, I have a plot with my last name on it, and a space if I want it, and I mean, that's how real Owine is that both sides of the family are there. And I haven't been there in, probably since my grandma passed before I started Slipknot. So once she passed, I probably never went back, and that was years before I started Slipknot. So, we're talking 30 years or plus. And there's a lot of family there, actually.
Yeah.
So it's crazy. That's cool. But it shows you how, for everybody listening, one way or another, I don't like to preach or politics or these sort of things, but one way or another, if we all look at it, we're all tied. It's a small world. We think it's a big world. It's really a small world in such a big space. And somehow we're all sort of related, whether we like it or not. I mean,
connection one way or another. Yeah.
we could prove it. I mean, I bet you it could be proven, you know, I mean, how can it not? We don't know where we're going. We don't know where we've been, but somehow it had to start. And I believe
Yep.
it had to start with 1 to 2, then to 3 to 4. And I don't know, but it's anyway, small
Yeah,
world.
man.
Small world.
Absolutely.
So, what do you do? What do you do on your spare time? What do you like to do when you're not making booze?
Yeah, man. So between a very busy work life, making whiskey and my family, I've got a wife, 2 daughters, a dog, and actually a baby on the way. We just found out. So,
Oh, congratulations, man.
Thank you. Very excited about it. Big family guy. So I stay real busy, but when I can, I love to be outside. I'm a fan of hiking, camping, big slow pitch softball player. I'm trying to get into golf. I'm terrible at it, but anything that basically gets me outside, I'm on board with.
Yeah, I noticed that when I'm at the distillery, I notice like you're a lot like me. You're never in one place for very long. And I actually think I see you outdoors more, taking the walk, making sure, and if people were there, there's several buildings on the property with several things to maintain. So it's a healthy little walk. You get a lot of exercise during the day, getting between them,
Yeah, man. I definitely, I get my steps in, that's for sure. I actually recently started riding a bike around because there's like all these buildings, and I don't want to waste all my time just traveling from one to another. So someone left a bike there. I don't even know whose it is. I just hopped on it one day, and it helps me get from point A to point B. But so in addition to being the head distiller out there, I'm also the director of operations, and we've become a fairly sizable distillery at this point. I think we've got 8 or 9 buildings, and as the director of operations, I oversee those. So I try to pop my head in every single building throughout every day. So like you said, yeah, I'm hardly ever in one spot too long. I like to mix it up and make sure everything, the wheels are turning and everything's good.
It's an amazing place. From the first day I went there, I always, when I'm interested in stuff, I go all in. And the last time before it snowed and we got to go out there and do a signing, it was still warm. You guys allowed us to pick a couple grapes, and I actually infused those grapes and did some stuff, but they were so delicious and so cool looking at the pond. And it's so, it's just so cool looking at, I don't think most people know how much time goes into actually, making, taking the alcohol and, putting it in a barrel and getting all those great elements out of the wood. And, it's not just straight mash, processed, bit of time, some steam, nozzle, put it in a bottle. There's so many factors, but the last one, after most of it's done, it just sits and has to sit to be what it is. And that's what fascinates me the most.
Yeah, man, it's there's so much involved. Like you said, it's not like, we push a make whiskey button and all of a sudden this stuff is ready to go in barrel. I mean, there are so many different elements, from grain to yeast to fermentation times and temps, distilling to different proofs and temperatures. I mean, there's just so many variables that you've got to control and be aware of. It's intense, but you mentioned the aging process, and that's one of my favorite parts about the way that we produce our whiskey, whether it's Cedar Ridge, Slipknot, whatever. It's fun because we're in Iowa, and here in Iowa, we've got constantly fluctuating temperatures, as you know, not only on a seasonal basis, but on a daily basis.
Daily.
In July, it might hit 100 degrees during the day, but then in the middle of the night, it might drop to 50. And that creates a lot of magic inside those barrels because as things heat up, everything starts to expand. The wood of the barrels, it becomes more porous, it opens up, and that whiskey is going to seep into the wood. And then as it becomes cold again, everything's going to contract and the whiskey gets pushed back into the center of the barrel. So we get some rapid movement in and out of that wood just due to our location being in the Midwest, being in Iowa. And that's, in my opinion, that's probably the most underrated part of our process, is just the way that our barrels, Mother Nature has a huge impact on the aging process because we don't control the temperature of the room. We don't pump humidity in there. It's just a very natural environment.
Well, I like that you say that because that's been my recent sort of trip in learning is I'm like, wait a minute, I need to start from the beginning. And the word whiskey comes from a Gaelic word meaning water, right? So
Yeah.
it's like, wait a minute, I'm studying barrels. I should be studying water.
Yeah.
And I love that you say Mother Nature because all the real stuff you're putting into it comes from Mother Nature, the
Yep.
corn, all this, the water, it's all. So what's really special about it is that Mother Nature has this overall thing that's controlling the outcome. And you nailed it. I think people think, when you say four seasons in Iowa, being in the Midwest, you can just imagine. I mean, you're not too far north, you're not too far south, you're not too far west or east. You're in the middle, so you can get all these weird transitions of weather hitting us. So
Yeah.
yes, we do get the four seasons, but like you said, daily, weekly, monthly, we're like,
Yeah.
what? It's like, like it's 120 in September or something. I'm making it up, but you're
Yeah.
absolutely right that we have these odd days. So
Yeah.
it throws like the percentages of like being able to determine exactly what
Yeah.
you're doing right. It's like the lotto. You're saying, oh, we've had this on a shelf for 5 years. I'd like to think it's this, but why don't you go look at what the last 5 years of weather's been? And that's what's going to tell us what this is. And it's going to be,
Yeah.
just constant contracting and, like you said,
Yeah.
pressure and time. I love that.
Absolutely.
It's probably
Yep.
my, go ahead.
No, it's just, it's really cool because, a lot of other distilleries, regardless of their location, the way that they store their barrels, they'll have sweet spots in their warehouses because they build them super tall, and heat rises. So at the top of the warehouse, it's super hot, and at the bottom, it's a lot colder. It's more like the same temperature as outdoors. And so they get these sweet spots in their warehouses where whiskey is going to age differently. And a lot of times to combat that, they'll move their barrels around. They'll take a barrel from up high and move it down low just to get those different temperatures. And being in Iowa, we can just let Mother Nature do that part. And in addition to that, we actually build lateral warehouses, so they're built wide instead of tall, so that we don't have to deal with those sweet spots as much. And we're not having that heat versus cold problem. All of our barrels are pretty much getting hit with the exact same temperature. And that's another really weird part that you kind of led into. Controlling the corn, controlling the distillate, all that. We try to control those parts of the process as much as humanly possible, and then we let Mother Nature pretty much finish it out. But it's completely bizarre how a barrel of whiskey that came from the same grain, the same mash, the same distillation run, all that, and say you barrel those two barrels and put them right next to each other and let them age for 5 years, and you go to taste them, somehow they'll be different from one another. It's kind of like a snowflake. Each one has different characteristics. Some similarities, of course, some consistency, but one will be heavy caramel, the next one will be heavy spice or something like that. They widely vary on a barrel to barrel basis.
That's so amazing. It's just I had an idea. I'm gonna come out there with a shovel, and I'll talk to your dad or you, and I'll make sure it's paid for. We'll get the distributor out there or whatever. But we need to bury a barrel. We need to bury a barrel underground, call it a wash, be like, in 1 year, we're going to dig this up, expect it all to be gone. The worms, I don't know, moisture. My dog just came in. Hey, baby. Whatever it is, we need to bury one.
Count me in. Yeah.
I like what you said. Like, it's just cool that anybody doing it can have their own idea. Some people like those sweet spots and swear
Absolutely.
by it. And like you've chosen to take the sweet spot out and make it all one sweet spot. And I love that everybody's got their thing. It's like art. It's why I'm involved also. For a long time, I had to really think about it because there's such a responsibility behind the responsibility drinking, you know.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I didn't know how much I would be good or bad for that. And I want to make sure that I, you know, am as responsible as I can to remind people they have to be responsible. So I know my, my intentions are spot on. So once I got into it, you know, it was just, there's so much with it, and determining how you want to do it, and what it is, and the mixture. I was just talking to your dad the other day, and he, you know, I was like, hey man, I've been enjoying the reserve lately, and he's like, you know, it's one of the better ones. You know, he was just saying that he was very proud of what you guys made, and you know, we're very, if you will, lucky to have come in when we did and meet each other. Maybe it's because we have family in Owine. Maybe
that's got to be it.
Maybe we're related. I don't know.
That could be. I mean, how many people live in Oldwine? I mean, you know, we probably are somehow.
What's going on here, man? It's like I have such a lost place in my heart sometimes for the people I haven't talked to my whole life. However, and also in defense, you can imagine I'm in Slipknot, and it's not always for everybody. So,
for sure.
You know what I mean? So like, sometimes I win, sometimes I lose. And when I lose big, because I choose art. You know, I choose art first and foremost. It's why I was on the planet. It's my only God. And it's what's gotten me through everything. So, you know, and that's what we do. But anyway, here, check it out. So this is like, I don't know if you can see it.
Absolutely. Oh yeah.
But I believe these are some of your grapes, and this would be some of your, I like to call it the Prohibition vodka, because someone told me that when Prohibition got lifted in Iowa, you guys, the first product on the shelf was this vodka that you made. And by the way, it's such a wonderful vodka. And anyway, here's your grapes. And I go jet skiing, and we like to, so this is just a little, I call this it's just under 2 shots. It's a reasonable, I don't know.
Yeah.
Is that better?
Yeah.
Anyway, so this is when I did that signing. So this is like 7 months or something. I don't know. It's like 6 months. But what it's for is, it's just for, you know, we go jet skiing, get a cooler, put a couple of these in.
Oh yeah.
Rip it down, eat it's beautiful because the grapes are so awesome on their own, but yeah, they're going to be full of the alcohol, but you know, it's just enough. It's just enough to go jet skiing, being responsible. It's not too much. It's not too little. It's just right. Tastes
absolutely
because I love the vodka. And actually my blend that I put in with it, that I play around with, is it's more like grape vodka. You know, less of a blend that I would put in it, because the grapes are so good. They have so many different sugars in them on their own. You really don't need to implement other sugars, you know. But I'm curious to see how this goes, because I've also been trying to learn how. I didn't know that like you could take alcohol, put in fermenting fruit in alcohol, you know, add yeast or sugar, and then make the alcohol percentage has gone up a little bit. And I first recognized that in Colorado. I was at a really kick-ass sort of vegan restaurant, and they had some local kombucha, and that kombucha came in, and we were eating dinner, and my wife and I looked at each other. I'm like, I got a buzz. I'm like, what's happening here? And she's like, I think I got a bus. I'm like, we can't drive. I'm like, I didn't order beer. I'm like, this is hitting me out of nowhere. So the people are really cool. And I go, hey, what's up with this kombucha? And they're like, oh, it created some alcohol. They're aware of it. It is actually an alcoholic beverage. You're of age, so We didn't card you or tell you. We just figured it's not a lot, but I'm very sensitive to alcohol. So,
Oh, for sure.
I mean, I picked, boom, it hit me in a dinner. It hit me such a low percentage. And that's what interests me in the infusion stuff. And then, of course, I studied a lot. Even before I met you, I always was fascinated with like that prison hooch stuff. Like
Yeah.
the fact that somebody's bringing the cubes of sugar, somebody's bringing
Yeah.
a cup of water, someone's got the bag for the toilet or whatever, like another art form, another great art form to make
Yeah.
something. And who would know unless you try it yourself and actually drink it and go, this is another process. So I've been working on that kind of weirdo stuff lately.
Yeah, man, and that's actually one of my favorite things about working with you on the Slipknot number 9 project. You're not just in this to have a whiskey and put your name on it. I love that you're always scheming. You're kind of always tinkering. How can we make this cooler? How can we design this better? How can we modify it? How can we change it? And I love your buy-in on that. It's fun. It makes the whole process fun rather than something that is something that we're gonna do. It's a passion project for you, and that makes it a passion project for me, and that makes it fun for everyone. So I love that about this project.
It spins a lot of people out on my side. But in all fairness to them, my dad brought me up, rest in peace, Dad. But he brought me up. He's like, have 10 things going at all times. And when number 1 is done, go to number 2, but get number 10 brought back in.
Yeah.
It's like that way. His way of explaining it was, you don't know what you're going to hit on. So be good at 10 things. Be interested in 10 things.
Yeah.
Don't focus your whole life on one thing and get nowhere. You don't know what you're going to hit on. You don't know what you're good at. You don't know any of these things until you try it. So have 10. So then when I got into rock and roll, my mom always said I was a Renaissance man. So of course I had to take the pictures. It's Slipknot, man. It's my part in it, I guess. Some people like my part in it. I imagine there's a lot of people that don't like my part in it. That's just how it goes. But, when I met my brother, Paul, I realized after he passed away, he was the one that saw the art in me. He saw the mad scientist. It's hard to see with the dude you're rolling around partying with. And, he was the doorman at my bar that I bought so we could get a record deal. And, he was my brother and we drank together and we got in trouble together. And my wife loved him. He stayed at my house. He wasn't only one of my best friends. He was a lot of people that are involved with Slipknot's best friends who also have just as intimate. I'm not the only one that just had one thing, but he was the one out of all the people that saw the art in me and was like, we're going to make music. And I mean, I'm not trying to be insulting to anyone, but pardon me, I didn't have a lot of people in my life explaining extreme music, black metal, death metal, even hardcore, even somehow punk music came through Des Moines on a underground level. There'd be a punk show at the Botanical Center on an underground level that I was a part of. So I was always a punker and an alternative, I guess, art guy that they like to say. But when I met Paul, he was able to navigate me through metal because I thought metal was just something I saw on MTV. And I don't want to mention names, but the bands that were making videos on MTV, I thought they were metal. And if I named the band, which I'm not going to because there's no reason to, it's all art. And then when I met Paul, he was able to go, no, I'm very naive, man. I just live in my imagination. We're talking about a long time ago that I met Paul Gray. But anyway, he's the one that helped me navigate through the music, the aggression, understand it. And then I fell in love and I started listening to everything. And then I found the ones that spoke to me like we all do with any music. But after he's been gone, I realized he's the one that saw the art in me. And so that's what I've taken place, and that's what I do. And that's why people go crazy with me, because I have a lot of great people that try to focus me, and they're like, look, let's get number one done. And I'm like, fine, I am getting number one done. And if you haven't paid attention, I'm getting number 2 and 3 done too. And they're like, yes, you are. Yes, you are. But now you're starting to introduce 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. And I'm like, you're right. It's taken me 20 years to admit that they were all right and I was wrong. But that's why I have this council. That's why I have our schizophrenia, because currently I have 40 thoughts. I need to replace the 2 missing spaces because I'm at about 45 today. But yeah, that's why I like working with you too, man, because like you're very busy, and I know how busy you are, and you're younger than I am, and you have a family, and you have to decipher what's most important. We all know what is most important. And then on top of it, you work in a family business. You know, I'm very fond of your father. I can't imagine what it would be working like for my dad. I know it'd be an honor. I know I'd love it, but I also know it's family, right? So we don't need to say more. You know, it's family.
It's absolutely you know, one of the most complicated parts of the whole thing. I mean, you know, because there's so much going on, and we're very fortunate to you know, have this this distillery. I mean, almost like a band. We've gone from a literal garage distillery to one that is on, you know, 75 acres now, and so there's been so much that has happened, and so many different conversations and so many different ideas have been brought to the table. And yeah, to sit there and discuss those with coworkers and your family at the same time can be very complicated. I mean, especially if you know, my dad and I, or my mom and I, you know, we disagree on a specific subject, and we're both very passionate about it. It creates a lot of complications, but at the same time, I mean, it makes us think things through. It makes us work through those complications so we get a much clearer answer. And by the end of the conversation, we're all kind of on board with the outcome, and we're all headed in the same direction. So it's, you know, it's incredibly complicated. I love working with my family and hate working with my family at the exact same time, if that makes any sense. If I could, though, I wouldn't change it. And you know, I hope to repeat the scenario one day with my own kids. You know, if they go on and do whatever, I'll be the proudest dad in the world, regardless of what they're doing. But if we had the opportunity to work together, I know I would absolutely cherish that. So we'll have to see what happens.
I understand that. All of my children are artistic in some form, whether it's an instrument or a camera or a pencil or all three. They take after their dad and mom. My wife is very creative. She makes jewelry, and she works on very small things that, you know, my hands would just destroy. And she's always yelling at me when I'm, you know, handling those small things. She's like, get those, you know, she loves me for she always says she loves my hands, but at the same time, she's like, don't destroy those little things that I work on. So I agree with you. Working at this point in my career, everyone in Slipknot, we're all brothers. We were brothers in '98. We love each other. We hate each other. We'll do anything for each other. We don't want to do anything for each other. It's how life is. But yeah, I look forward to, you know, I get crazy. I've told you this, like I want a burning Tribal S somewhere on the 75 acres. And I want to be furthest away from the road. You got to be, you know, it's like, isn't there an S here? Oh yeah, you got to go down this road and over here and down by this tree, and you know, and then that's where we bury that barrel, you know. And
I want both those things, man. We're gonna get that warehouse. Yeah, we're gonna do it.
By the end, and that's all it's been, is that, man, what we've been doing so much, I've had so much feedback. You know, unfortunately, you haven't been able to be there, like when I was in Amsterdam doing a signing, and just how cool it was of an achievement to be able to get our product, our piece of art that we make together
Yeah.
to another country. Most people don't know how difficult. And besides the legal aspects of it, which I'm talking about is the difficulty, what I'm talking about is fans in America, this was always a thing, fans in America can't be the only ones that get this. And that's why I have such a great team, that we're all doing it for the culture, the fans. So I got to be there to see some fans out of country get that and actually taste it and talk to me about it. And unfortunately, not every territory we could get it done in, but by getting it into a couple, it proves that we can just keep trying to get it everywhere. And that's been our focus all along, is to try and get, what we're doing together, Slipknot and Cedar Ridge, and this product we make together, which is I see it over there, the small batch, and I see the
small batch right here.
Small batch, and I see the reserve over there, and sure do love the reserve. Such a great bottle.
I'm with you, man. I'm with you.
Mine's up here on the Pro Tools rig. We toast the end of the night once in a while when it's been a hard day, and we've really been digging and working, and we like to be rewarded with something that takes a lot of work. Anyway, yeah, man, I think you and I should get on from time to time to talk about blends and what we do together. And then obviously, if you're in your softball league and you won the tournament, you need to tell me all about that. And,
you got it.
I'll tell you all about where I'm touring and stuff. But this has been really cool for me, because usually when I see you or you see me, pardon me, it's really in passing. We're both working very hard. It's not that we have an agenda, it's that we have work, and we're working and we have to get it done. And I live, it's a weird thing, because when you come to where you're at, if you leave early, you got the sun in your face. I went to college in Iowa City, and I had to be at class at 10. So I'd leave at like 7:30, just be blinded by so brutal. And then I would then I'd leave right when the sun was going down. Same thing, but I had to get home and I had to get to school. So didn't matter what sunglasses I had. It was brutal both ways. So I live about, it's a 2-hour drive. You gotta stop, go to the bathroom, even though it's not 2 hours, it's 2 hours. And, it's 2 hours there, put the work head on, get to work, say hi to everyone, get some of your, you guys make the greatest pizza. We love it so much. We just pound it in the car on the way home. We said, screw sitting down. Let's just eat in the car and eat stuff. I want everybody to know you have a beautiful place out there with a wood oven or a brick oven. You make pizza, food, and it's lovely during the summertime to sit out. I brought my family out there, my sister-in-law. They love sitting out there and just chilling. But from time to time, you and I will get on, and next time, let's talk about some, maybe you can walk me down. So we'll get off, after we get off this one, next time we get on, we'll try to make this a regular thing.
For sure.
Maybe from now to that next time, you can grab what you do, 1, 2, 3, or 4 of your bottles that are coming down, mix something, talk about it. I'll do the same thing. We'll get a little shooter or a little thing, we'll taste, talk about what we did, and go from memory, so like I'm gonna go, I was fortunate, I got some, I was able to get some of your guys' vodka. I like to infuse with your guys' vodka, so I have some of that from our last trip. And there's a new pepper. It's called, well, it's not so new, I shouldn't say that. It's called the Carolina Reaper.
Yeah.
Have you ever heard of this pepper?
I've definitely heard of it. I've never had it, but I've heard of it.
So again, I preach facts, so I'm not trying to make anybody mad here. If I'm getting any facts incorrect, I am going to basically make an acknowledgement that I may not know to the exact, but at one point, not so long ago, the Carolina Reaper was the hottest pepper on the planet, having the most Scoville units, whatever. And I know that this gentleman who has made it crossed different peppers to get this pepper. But what's so besides all of that technology and all that stuff that I'm not going to have right, I'm going to tell you what I am going to get right. There is no purpose for that pepper to be on the planet. There's no purpose. There's no bird that eats it. There's no animal that eats it. It doesn't deter a bug away. It's not a warning symbol for a flower. And honestly, I could be wrong about that, but I'm saying since it's been created and the Scoville unit goes up and up and up and up, we're cross-pollinating these genetics and making these hotter peppers. But I'm thinking to myself, this gentleman is making a prehistoric pepper that doesn't even belong on the planet we live on. I don't know if I'm making sense of what I'm saying. I'm just saying, an item of food has been made that has no purpose on the planet because it's too hot. It's too hot. But isn't that fascinating that like every bird's going to be like, no, thank you. Every animal is going to be like, no, thank you, except for the human animal who's like, all right, let's have contests and eat it. I mean, there's a documentary on this gentleman. I'd say his name if I remembered it. I'm really bad with names. Everyone should watch it because he's just eating them. And it's a fascinating story. But the way I look at it is if the bald eagle needed to eat and was starving and landed by a Carolina Reaper, it would not eat it. It has no purpose on the planet. And I like to think that the madman who figured out how to make alcohol from things that were rotting by adding things that taste sweet that are still sort of alive. And then if anybody's watched a yeast blow up, you know, a violent yeast process, you're like, I'm not drinking that. I don't care what comes from that. That looks like death. So what I'm getting at is sort of what we make together has no reason being on the planet. And some could fight that, I guess. We're responsible. We love it. It's an art form. I love it. And I can't wait to create we have already, I believe that we've created that reserve in that small batch. I believe that's our Carolina Reaper, just like all these other wonderful products that you and your family create. You have so many, let's just call them genetics that you've made, and what a wonderful thing. What many canvases to be hung and many colors to be mixed and just pieces of art. And it's fun to work with you. And I've recently just gotten off my high horse and decided, you know, I'm going to focus hardcore on what we've started. And but yes, soon to be you and I, lots of weird things. It's a lot of fun creating with you too, man. The job that you do get a little monotonous at times. So it's always a pleasure to come out to your lab and turn it upside down. Give your family my love. Stay safe out there. Keep up the good work. And hopefully I'll see you next month. And don't be surprised. You know, you should probably go to your dad and tell him I came up with an idea of bearing a barrel. He'll probably have a lot to say about that. We'll have his wisdom. We should take his wisdom. Maybe he'll want to put it in a box. Maybe he'll want to put some dehumidifier down there. I don't know, but run it by him, and don't be surprised if I show up next time. And somewhere on that 75 acres, we just pick a location and we just bury a thing. And I'll buy it if I'll buy it or whatever. But get your dad involved, get everybody involved. I'll bring some people and we'll dig that thing. And then whatever. So it's always fun.
We're absolutely going to do that. I mean, that's one of the funnest parts about working with whiskey is just experimenting and, trying something that people don't normally try. So no, next time you come down, man, we're gonna do that. It'll be a ton of fun, and
we'll film it.
We'll film it.
everybody thinks we're BSing right now.
No, we're gonna do it.
We're not BSing. I mean, I know I'm telling the truth. I'll dig it too, so it's like that's part of the fun. I want to be there when we dig it up too. I want to see the tomb. So anyway, tell everybody hello. Be safe out there. Keep up the good work. And man, it's a pleasure to talk to you, especially in this format. We never get time to really hit it. And next time we'll bring it a little more personal. Just talk about other things, and get it there. But I think this is a good one for everybody because they need to know how much excitement like you and I actually have about. You're the one that walked me around and busted into those barrels and told me to taste this, this, and this. And then, you're the one that helped me get the proof right. And you helped me dial in and, you're the one that helped me you put the decisions in front of me. And I was able to ask the questions, you were able to answer, you put the decisions in front of me. All my peers say that some of my best traits are knowing how to commit. I know how to commit very fast without thinking about the other or regretting that I didn't choose the other. We got to get going. I like this just a little bit better than these other two. So let's go with this proof instead of that proof. Even if I was going for that proof, I may have gone for this one just because it sat better, So anyway, again, pleasure, brother. Have fun. Get to work. I'm going to work. And have a good, you're at home though, because that's your lab. You're at home. So stay home.
I'm at home. So yeah, I think I will. And I'll finish up the day from home, but no, man, thanks for saying all those nice things. And thanks for having me on the show. I truly enjoy the show, by the way. I've listened to a number of episodes now. Fred Armisen one is phenomenal. If you haven't heard it, people should check that one out. But thanks a ton for having me on. I look forward to doing it again. We'll bury a barrel soon.
We will, and I'll put some of those links of what we've done together already on the Electric Theater. So they'll have this, and then maybe anything we've done with Fred, even when we were down in Kentucky. That was so crazy, by the way. People should know that we were down there doing a little, obviously I'm on tour, so they wake me up and they give me my one sheet and they're like, they told me a week earlier that, we're going to be doing this, but I got to live day by day. And I get my day sheet and it says, whiskey tasting. I'm like, it's before I'm playing. I'm like, and then they bum rush the stage on us. And at one point, I'm pouring the reserve into people's mouths. And I'm like, wow. And what I took away from that was every single one of those people that was there was so knowledgeable. Yeah. They weren't just there to get drunk or, shirts were off and it was on and people were like poured in my mouth, but they were asking the best questions. Yeah. I had to look to, I was like, and you had to manhandle a lot of them. So people need to know, like we have gone out and done some of these crazy rock and roll meets whiskey down in Kentucky and had a blast. That was when I walked away from that, I was like, what did I just do? I was pouring whiskey in people's mouths. Is that okay?
That was one of the wildest experiences of my career so far. I remember just the adrenaline rush of, we walk on stage and just this mob just comes to the stage. Yeah. And they were all about it. And yeah, like you said, they were answering the right questions and man, that was a ton of fun. But yeah, same as you, when I got off stage, I was like, what just occurred? I have no idea what just happened.
I did the same thing. They walked me off and I went, I'm taking responsibility for this or whatever, but I was told, guaranteed, I was like, I was pouring whiskey into this person's mouth. They were, they're like, yes, it's this is the beer garden. We're in the beer garden. It was a tasting. I was like, what just happened? That was, and the other thing is that I guess why I'm making such a big deal about it is like, I have a set of friends that think you should sip the reserve. I have a set of friends that shoot the reserve. I'll be honest, I shoot the reserve. But I shoot it slow. I don't try to get it in. It's like a Clint Eastwood movie, it's like they're real slow. And the eyes closed. And I'm like, God, that's delicious. And I'm like, in a minute and 30 seconds, I'm gonna have an explosion in my chest of warmth.
Yep.
And the reserve does that for me, whereas the small batch stays in my mouth for 15 minutes. And it's just like, hi, I'm here. And so that's why I was like, I was just pouring the reserve down people's face. It seems like such a bad thing to do. Like, weren't they supposed to enjoy it? And that's why I was like, God, this is awesome. So we're gonna do a lot more of those once this all gets lifted. And now that we're just further, and I know, just to let people know, because we're gonna have a lot of whiskey people get into this. I don't know if this is, I wanted to bring this up earlier, so I appreciate you staying on with me. I don't know if this is gonna happen, but obviously this is something you and I have spoken about. We've all spoken about this. Your dad's spoken about it, management's spoken about it. We've all spoken about it. At one point, you know, we're gonna get a 10-year, a 5-year, you know, I was talking to you the other day about making a barrel that will be opened when I'm not on the planet. And I think you even said to me, like, there's people that own big distilleries that have done that, you know, and know that, you know, so it's not an uncommon thing. So I can't wait to, you know, you said it to me the other day, hey, when you want to make it that day, come up. And I got different things I can, because you're in charge of that. And I can let you taste some things that we could call it, we could all of a sudden now make it a 10-year or what have you. And that's, you know, again, it all comes back to Mother Nature and time. Mother Nature has had her bosom on this fine barrel for, you know, for 10 years, 5 years, or whatever we decide. So that's something we're going to be talking about as well very soon. That's exciting for my children and your children, that can be a part of something that the reward is much later. And I guess I do talk a lot about that in art, that don't always look for instant gratification. That's what's wrong with these phones today, is that no one, everybody's right because everybody's wrong, because the last post told you they were right and the next post tells you they're wrong. So just know that some reward in this life, and I'm not saying this to you, I'm saying this in general to everyone, that some of the reward we should be looking at is reward in the future. We can't clean up the planet. We can't clean up the smog. We can't just clean up the park in one day. It takes time. The reward is tomorrow. We've already done damage. So I love that what we do together takes time, and that
absolutely.
Then you get it in your hand, you're like, wow, we worked 2 years on this, or 3 years. This bottle I'm holding, you know, I had to ask you the other day, I keep forgetting to ask you, how long does a small batch sit? And you're like, 1 year. And I'm like, oh my God, these small batches are a year. I'm like, what? Like, how'd I miss that? And then I'm like, well, then that makes the reserve. And you're like, yeah, up to 4, or, you know, however we talk about it.
Minimum 4, yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, well, then it's not, I mean, I tell everybody, hey, this is our 3-year reserve, but I'm like, but it's really a 4 and has 2 philosophies. It starts off as a small batch, maybe in one barrel, goes to another to become the reserve. What a wonderful, 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 wonderful thing. Anyway, we're gonna have a lot of people that are gonna get on this one who love whiskey and are gonna love that we talk these sort of things, as people that want to know just how many songs I've written, and I'm not going to tell everybody, and when that music is coming out, and I'm not going to tell everybody, and just know that we're getting to record here in the summer very soon. So there's a good one. So, all right, man, have a great rest of your day at home. See you soon. Be safe out there, and take care of yours and everyone around you.
Tell the family I said hi. Great speaking with you.
All right, man. Be good. Bye-bye.